like, oh shit, am I late? Like start getting caught up in my other thing.
Oh.
Like, oh yeah.
Okay, we're actually live right now. It didn't do the intro for some reason. Wow, fantastic. We're just popping right on.
Okay.
You know, I was thinking everything was going just way too good, way too well here with everything. And then sure enough, I threw it into the field, this nice little curveball. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Mindful Mashup. We're starting without the intro today. I think we're, maybe having some technical difficulties, but that's all good. We're here. We're here and cruising. Today we're hanging out with Dr. Kristen Wild. I don't know if you guys remember from previous show. She was one of our first guests. We got a little cut off there too. So we've, so now we get to go take two and then see what she's been up to. And then, welcome, Kristen.
Awesome. Thanks. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm stoked. I'm really stoked how this works out because I really we've been chatting lots. And then I want to chat today about your program that you've been running because you guys have been Kristen's doing a program focusing on patients battling with autoimmune issues and that have really had no luck in the general health system and now looking for other ways to look within and heal. And that's what we're all about here. So it's really, really in line. And I'd really love to hear how that's going. And because you guys you've been doing that now for almost a year.
Yeah. It's been over a year now. The program's been running and I've been working with people before that through my therapy practice. And helping people overcome autoimmune. And it just got to the point where I really had dialed it in with people and was like, okay, what's the next step? Because I was finding this whole working with people in that aspect, I was my own bottleneck. So it's like people wanted to come in and work with me and then I only have so much time. So that's why we created this program. And now it's not just me. There's amazing coaches involved and it's like living a dream, watching people heal their lives. It's amazing.
Yeah. It must be so cool to see people when they really step into that power in themselves and then see as it unfolds and them continue.
Yes. And then
to evolve through it.
In fact, our program's called the Power to Heal program because it's exactly that. Healing is a side effect. So we work with these people with diseases that they've told they're hopeless, that they're incurable. And, I went through that experience myself with rheumatoid arthritis for over 10 years. It was quite the battle. It was very isolating. I felt hopeless. I became really, really depressed. And, it got to the point where I actually would have been preferred to have taken from that disease and to, cross over to the other world. It really does get to that point because it's just so desperate and there's no feeling of hope for people. And so when I started healing and becoming, well and realizing I had accumulated all these answers, people started saying to me, you need to do this, you need to help people. And I just was like, you're right. How could I hold all of this within me and not share it with others now? So it's just cool. It truly is like living in a dream world. I had no idea I was going to become this person.
Well, that's fantastic. One, I'm so proud of you, but then also just so much respect for what you're doing. And maybe we could dive into that a little bit because your therapy practice, that you had been working with similar patients for a while, but that varied too though, right? This is more hyper-focused on the autoimmune issues and people battling through that.
Yeah. So I went back to school to get my applied psychology diploma so that it gave me the opportunity to register as a professional counselor because I really wanted to understand that mind-body connection because that mind-body connection was a huge piece in healing for me. And I wanted to be able to articulate it to people, to be able to explain it, because it's like sometimes it is hard to explain how you go through it. So I needed the right language to explain it to people. And so that's why I went to school for that. And then my other degree is I have a PhD in metaphysical science, and my major was quantum physics. And that actually has played a huge role in what we do here, which is so funny, because when I took that, it was not cool. Like people were like, like, you know, and so it's like, yay, it's finally my time, because it's like science is catching up to all of this. It's not just this like mystical, magical thing like in the ether that our human mind can't really grasp. We're actually starting to be able to understand it. So it's like, it's now that's all come into play with it as well. So this whole time I was just like spinning my wheels, going in circles and feeling like, what am I doing with my life? And just like following these weird nudges. And then here we are, and it all makes sense now.
The pieces need to just like getting ready, and now it's like those toy cars that you pull them back, and then they just go.
Exactly. It's all of a sudden just like, I felt like, it's the way I describe it. I think a lot of people go through this, and we're seeing like a lot of alignment with people that have really like felt this way, where it's like, it's almost like you're like a rocket ship that's like tethered to the ground, and it's just like flying out of control. And then all of a sudden, like someone cuts the rope, and you're just like, and then it's like all of a sudden you're like, what's happening?
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So have you found then, like, since, because I think also it's curious that psychedelics have gained more traction over the last couple of years as this is becoming more mainstream in the thought process, in the ether, in connecting in these psychedelic experiences. People are connecting to something they don't understand, but they're like, oh, all of a sudden they know this is possible. And it's also created that shift in people as well as so many other things. But have you found then now, from people that were coming into your therapy clinic to people coming into the program, that there's a bit more ease in that initial first couple steps of, because a lot with the mind body is also giving yourself the space to explore it, because there's all these predetermined things that this can't happen from society and all that.
Yeah. So to be perfectly frank, I am not people's first choice typically. So I'm usually the person that people get to when they are just like, I've tried everything. And because that's what we naturally do. We naturally have trust in all of these other things. And it's not like there's anything wrong with them. Our medical system's amazing. There's so many amazing things in that. So it's not or, it's and. And so what happens is autoimmune is very confusing. It's very confusing for people. There's a lot of layers to it. And so what happens is care gets compartmentalized, and then people just get so confused and so overwhelmed by all the different things out there claiming to be answers, or one thing works for one person, it doesn't for another. And so by the time people get to me, they are ready. They're ready to be like, tell me what to do and I will do it. Yeah. Because they're like, I know all these other things do not work. They, you know, and sometimes it's not even that the things don't work. It's that they're missing a piece of the puzzle. And if they had this other piece of the puzzle, that would work so much better. Yeah.
Well, and as great as our system is, when you're going to see 8 different doctors that are doing physiotherapy, skin, whatever, it's the system dynamic right now. It's really hard for them to communicate. So you don't get that. I'd imagine anyways.
Yeah. Well, and that's it, because there isn't any really communication with the specialist. And it's like that old saying, like the baker wants to bake and the butcher wants to butcher. And so like you go to a surgeon, they want to cut, you go to an endocrinologist, they want to give you some sort of chemical or pill, it's like, and so because that's how they're trained and that's what they've learned, that's their specialty. And so it's like not villainizing it. It just is how it is. It's just accepting reality for what reality is, and then finding your way of working within it.
Yeah. Do you find that your clients, and they almost need to go through that though to get to a stage where they're able to give themselves the space to look at other options?
Yeah. And I find this with people in all different areas of life. So, in my community work, I work with people exiting domestic abuse kind of situations or domestic violence, all types of different things, mostly women and children, sometimes men. But this happens even in there as well. Like it happens in all areas and all aspects of life where it's like you almost have to like hit that point of like no return. Because the thing is with human beings, we are so weird in that we really fear change. And it's like when you really break it down, that is not, it's like, what does that do for us? Nothing. So, but it's so in us, like all of us. And it doesn't even matter how evolved you are as a human being. You still get into these cycles of fearing change because, you know, we like to know what to expect. And so we almost just like, it's that frog in boiling water analogy that Al Gore famously said, like, you know, you take a frog, you put it in like room temperature water, you turn up the heat. And then once that, once it's boiling, it's too late. The frog's dead because it got used to the temperature changes. But if you just took a frog and threw it in boiling water, it would jump right back out. And so it's one of those things, it gets there drip by drip. And one of the things that human beings will do to avoid making changes is go into denial. We're so good at it.
Yeah, that is definitely one.
So usually by the time I'm working with people in all these different dynamics and aspects, they are at a point of desperation, which is actually, I know it's so weird to say, but when someone comes to me and they're so desperate, I'm like, yes, because this is where from the breakdown comes the breakthrough. So I'm like, this, I can help you. We can work together, because they have to be in that state of willingness. If they're still in a state of denial, there's nothing I can do.
Right. Because because that makes total sense, because they can't get even out of that vibration until they're ready. Whatever's there. And so that's where I come in. This is like where I love it when people are desperate. I don't know. I'm like, well, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful
to watch, because it really is like it's like going from the real depths of despair and then watching people go through each layer and watching their power rise up to the point where like it's like 8 weeks later and they're like, and I told him, no way I'm doing that. And you know what else I did? I went over here and I took that. So they're like fully in their power. And I'm like, you know, like, it's like, it's so funny. And it's the same thing with the healing. I always say to people, I'm like, don't even worry about the healing part. Like that's such a side effect. And so it's like when we build up ourselves and we come into our own power and we come in alignment with ourselves, all of our systems come online. We naturally want to eat better. We naturally want to do better for our minds, our bodies. We naturally want to give more because we are in our power. We feel strong. And it actually doesn't even matter what the body's doing at that point. You're so like in love with existence that is like, and then like what happens is people just wake up one day and they're like, oh, I don't even remember the last time I thought about being sick. It's the best.
And it compiles, right? It's almost one of those things. And if you put your focus into these different healing practices or just daily life practices, first you're like trying to pay attention to the benefits, then you forget and you start but then you get that feeling better and it really starts to get that that snowball effect, and then it's like,
it's just like a train leaving a station. It's like the train leaving a station. Like when you want to go to a destination and you're like, okay, I'm doing it, I'm going. And when that train first starts getting going, it's like chugging along. It is so much work. And often when people have to get going and have to make these changes is when they're at their weakest. It's so ironic. It's like when you have to like drum up the most energy is when you have the least. And so it's like really chugging along because it takes like this work, this effort to set that in motion. But once it's in motion, like you're talking about, it just becomes part of life. So at first we bring it into our minds, right? And we have to constantly repeat it to ourselves over and over and over. That's how the adult brain learns. It's different than a childhood brain. So our adult brain learns by repetition, repetition, repetition. And then once it's repeated it long enough, then it kind of marinates in our subconscious. And then the subconscious works away at it. And then what happens is naturally we start to embody that as part of who we are and our natural being. And so it doesn't become work anymore because it's just a natural response instead of a reaction.
Yeah. And you're naturally breaking those old belief patterns and creating these new ones.
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you find, I can't remember what I was going to say. I had a question around what you were chatting about earlier. And then, with the shift, do you find if someone, I'm sure there are people that come into the program that are a little bit humming and hawing a little bit. Do you find that those people that starts to change, or do you find that hemming and hawing holds them back, and the people who are just open to anything really see results more quickly?
Well, that's it. So that's the thing. To me, it's not if, it's when. So some people do take a little bit longer to dissolve some of those belief systems that they've created in their lives because they served them at some point. At some point in time, those belief systems and those coping mechanisms served them in their life. It's usually in a time when they weren't actually able to escape whatever it is they were living in. And so they developed these coping skills that really helped them and created belief systems around them that helped them survive and to get through life. And now they've come, and it's like, it's actually coming into the state now, realizing, oh, this doesn't serve me anymore. It's not necessary. I'm not stuck, because it's like, we're not. There's so many times where we can feel trapped in our life. I know I have so many times. And then it was like, I turned around and like opened the door and realized it wasn't locked the whole time. That it was only me that could step out of that. And, and it's like that part of empowerment can actually be very scary for people. Yeah. Because now all of a sudden you're responsible for everything. Yeah. All of a sudden you're not a victim of anything anymore. And so if there's something going on in your life that is where you're being victimized, once you've had that awareness, it's now your responsibility. Yeah. You're participating. Yeah. And so people have a really hard time with coming into that. And so, there's definitely some resistance with some people. And then other people, they're so wide open. They're cracked wide open and they just get right into it. So it really it depends on the person. But to me, I'm not concerned about when it happens. I'm with people until forever. Like we say our program's a year and it's like, no, people just stick around because we all love each other so much. It's so fun. And you know what really helps with that too, having the program itself that I hadn't anticipated, but is amazing, is the community aspect. Yeah, I was going to say. So when someone new comes in, they get to see someone way further down the road who is already in full remission, has regained their life, their joie de vivre or whatever it's called. It's like they are like making plans and doing things and moving. And it's so inspiring for those that are just coming in because they're seeing that proof that we really can feel like this can really happen. And people being apprehensive is perfectly acceptable because you look at all the stuff out there. Like I spent over $200,000 of my own money now at this point on my own body and healing my body. And I would say probably about 25,000 of it has been like, yes, like that's money well spent. So people are apprehensive when they come across our program or anything that you and I are even talking about of like this new paradigm we're kind of stepping into. We're talking about psychedelics and people are like, like what, I myself, when I was like, that's drugs, and it's so funny. And they're not for everybody. I wouldn't recommend them to everyone. It's not the path for everyone, but it is a path. And it can be so beneficial to people when we open our minds and just like use our own discernment. But we have been taught not to trust our own guts, our own inner sense of knowingness. It's been like entrained out of us. And now we need to entrain it back in because it's like, it is gold. If you know how to listen to yourself, life goes so much better.
Yes, well, exactly, right? I'm just reading a comment here. Yo, Dr. Kristen, can you show us your biceps because you are the embodiment of how a muscular, healthy woman looks like?
You want to see my biceps? Yes. Okay, wait.
Yes. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, and to bring context to that too, through your journey and your thing, you were at a point at one point where you couldn't even lift a coffee cup, right? And like, it just shows so much to when you really step into this, what you can really achieve.
Yes, it's amazing. Like, and so it's like, you know, I went through hell. I did. And so that's why I'm really passionate about what I do for work. And because it's just like, to me, it's not even a job. It's just like so amazing to be able to help other people, because I was at the point where I was like bedridden. I was in a wheelchair. I was told I needed 4 joint replacements. And so now 3 of them have essentially completely reversed. I'm still working on my left shoulder. As you can see, like, it looks like I have this like sultry, seductive look going all the time, but no, it's because my shoulder is still not fully repaired. And so it, like, my shirts all fall off one side. Like,
oh, it works. I like how you're just stepping into it.
I just go with it. But anyway, but I'm still working on this. And actually, you and I have a lot of stuff coming up in terms of this, where we're going to be looking at some different alternate technologies that are coming out to take healing even one step further. Because like we said, it's not or, it's and. So yes, there's spiritual components. There's the component of our being in alignment with our consciousness. There's the mental health component. There is the physical health component, like the nutrition and movement. And then we have amazing medical technology emerging that is doing all kinds of things. So you and I are going to be talking about that soon in our new podcast.
Yeah, I haven't talked to anyone about that yet, but
I know, this is like the first time we've said it out loud.
It's happening. Yeah, we're going to be doing a podcast diving into some new tech and all the bioscience and frequency and some cool work within the field, and tapping into what both of our industries where we work, but also just the synchronicity and all of it. So it's going to be great. I'm stoked for it.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. So in that too, just so everybody knows, we are going to be doing experiments essentially on ourselves and discussing them. That's where we're starting. And we're going to be interviewing some really interesting people. And I'm really pumped about it because it's super unique. And I find like it's really needed right now for, because the scientific model and theories and the way that things get tested that way is so good, because it really keeps things in alignment. And then also you just kind of need people that are going to be completely unbiased and just tell you what their experience is without any parameters. So it's going to be really funny.
I'm really looking forward to that part. I do this already. I know you do too. But to be able to talk about it and interview people in the different fields, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Are we going to talk about the stem cells that you're going to potentially do?
Well, I don't know. Okay, so there's three things. 3 things that I think would be good for this. So my shoulder, it had 0 cartilage left. It was bone on bone and basically close to fusing. So all my other joints had a bit of cartilage left. So it's rejuvenated its cartilage through, I use platelet-rich plasma injection. So you can look that up. It's really great, and it uses your body's own healing abilities. And so that's been amazing. So I've had 11 joints treated with that, and it's going great. So the shoulder is the only one that's kind of like still got some stuff going on where it doesn't have like full rotation or movement. And so there's 3 things I would like to try, and we'll see. So first, you and I and your lovely partner, Jay, are going to do the biochargers. So that is based on frequency. They have that at a place near us. So we're going to test that out and see how that goes. And also, there is some new technologies coming out and emerging all over the place of cartilage injection. So they inject into the joint directly, and then you grow natural new cartilage. So there's that as well. And then, yes, there is stem cell therapies. Now, I don't know if I'm personally going to do the stem cell therapies yet or not, because you and I are also working on a different technology with the frequency machine that's emerging. So we'll probably talk more about that later as we kind of like discover how we're going to navigate this. But there is, we do have a machine that is really, really cool that measures frequency of the cells, and we believe that we can actually alter our frequencies as well. So then now we're going to get super esoteric and try that one. And then if all else fails, stem cells.
Stem cells. I love it. I love it. Well, I think Adam, I'm not sure if Adam's still in the chat, but he got stem cells, and he said it really helped with him. I don't know if you're still out there, Adam, but we are getting some questions about, so maybe get back on track for a sec and loop back. We have dove into this in the past, but maybe just on a bit more of your story, just getting some questions on what started your diagnosis, what were your issues, and how it all started.
So it took me by complete surprise. So I was very, very, very healthy. Like, I went to the gym 6 days a week. When I was younger, I was a competitive skier. I ran half marathons. I was at the top of my game in life. I was a full-time real estate agent. So this was 2009. I was a full-time real estate agent. I had one daughter who was 1.5 years, just had my second daughter. So 2 babies. And about 5 weeks in, after having my second daughter, the doctor said that she wasn't big enough. That was her doctor. I don't know what the baby doctor is called. What's it? The baby doctor. She said,
not a place I focus.
She's like, take this pill, it's going to give you more milk. And I was like, kind of questioning it and she was totally doing it out of like, she concerned for the baby, but also like, I'm 5 foot tall and I weigh 95 pounds. And so I have a small baby. Like, it made sense now, in hindsight, but I just kind of went with it. I took the pills. I had way too much milk, and then I ended up with mastitis. And from that mastitis, it was so severe that I got blood poisoning. So I was like literally hallucinating. Had gone cuckoo bananas. And so my husband at the time had to drive me to the hospital, and we had to bring the baby with me because I was breastfeeding. And so while I was there, they were able to get this fever down. And I don't know if you can hear the cat. There's cats fighting behind me. But anyway, so can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear that. Oh, there he is. It's over. They're broken up.
A very serious story. Anyway, so
to lighten it up a little bit.
So they get the fever down, and then they're like, okay, we need to keep you overnight, but we don't know what to do with you because you can't put you in the maternity ward. We can't put you here. And so they essentially kick someone out of their room for the night and put me and my baby in there. And they're like, we're just going to give you a super dose of antibiotics. And that way we can get you out of here. Well, they did that, and it was okay. But the thing is I just had a C-section. This was my second baby in 1.5 years. I'm working full time. And I'm and I'd always been able to count on my body. Like, I never really thought about it's probably too far. 3 weeks later, I woke up one morning and both my wrists felt like they were broken. Just like out of nowhere, one day I had rheumatoid arthritis, and that was that. I went for 3 weeks of being in denial of my bones, like my joints just like kept feeling like they were taking turns being broken. And so I go to the doctor and explain this. She's like, this sounds like rheumatoid arthritis. And I was kind of like, okay. Like, I had never heard of it before. I'm not a medical doctor. And like, I never really needed doctors for anything before. And so I never thought about autoimmune diseases. Like, I never had known someone with a disease like that. And when you call it rheumatoid arthritis too, it doesn't even begin to describe what it is. It's exhausting. You get brain fog. It eats away at the cartilage and the joint tissues in all the joints. Bit by bit, it like degrades your body. And then by the time I was 10.5 years in, my organs were shutting down. I could not move. Like, it's honestly like the only way I can describe it to someone is it's like someone takes crowbars and puts it between your joints and is like trying to pry them apart.
Oh.
It's the worst. Like, there's so many people that live with diseases like this. Like, it's insane.
With the immune diseases, with the immunity being such a, like, the system is also, it's something we don't really think about, but the basis of so much of our nervous systems and the different, where they work. So does this affect the gut and eating and this
it's
sort of
everything.
Yeah.
So autoimmune, there's always 3 factors. Always. There is the gut impermeability. Gut impermeability. That is always part of it. It always is. It's like, it just is like, it's happening. And then I was like, I feel like you need to see these 2 idiots.
They're just battling.
Oh my God. Anyway, okay, so it's gut impermeability, and then there is also a genetic predisposition. So people are going to get sick one way or another if they're going to get sick. How it shows up is genetics. So it's like the gene's been triggered. So for me, it was rheumatoid arthritis, but if I had a different genetic predisposition, it could have been diabetes, it could have been IBS, it could have been Crohn's. It's like so many things. So mine was rheumatoid arthritis, and then the third is a trigger. So for me, it was antibiotics. But for others, I've heard vaccines, traumatizing time in life. It's like there can be so many different factors.
Right.
But there's always a trigger. And once Pandora's out of that box, it is really hard to put her back in.
Sorry, I'm just reading the chat. Yeah, Keegs, I know it's you. And that's, what's so crazy, like, because it is these triggers. That's actually a question I wanted to ask you, was with now being 2 years out from COVID, are you seeing more of this, like, potentially, without getting too, like, saying any trigger words that are going to get us banned off YouTube, but
that's it.
But are you seeing more people, like, these autoimmune issues being triggered potentially from unknown sources or whatever it is? Yeah.
Autoimmune is on the rise. It's rampant. It has a lot to do with our mental distress. And there's a lot of people suffering with their mental health right now.
Right.
It's a lot.
So that's it, where it piles on too, it's the mental health.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it's like majority of population is kind of like struggling with their mental health right now, because we are just seeing a really big shift in our society in general. How we operate, how we communicate with each other, how we spend time with each other, like the technology advancements, the amount of stimulus we are taking on is like, I think at some point it was 20,000 times what our grandparents even did, but I think it's probably even higher than that at this point. So it's very, like, overwhelming for the systems. And so disease is on the rise. Yeah.
For sure. Do you, in your, so I guess too, so autoimmune disease, this is to give the listeners and the audience some context. Like, so these are basically, there's not a ton necessarily they can do as far as treating these diseases. It's more of like a patch system, and then that's what brings them to your program.
That's it. Because, and this is something I had to discover for myself, and people just have to discover for themselves, is healing comes from the inside out. It's like anything else in life. Happiness comes from the inside out. Enjoyment of life comes from the inside out. Everything comes from the inside out. And a lot of us have been trained to learn how to navigate our environment and to fit within it, instead of showing up as our whole selves and deciding what our environment is like.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. And because of that, when you come into that self-empowerment and learn that, healing is a natural response, because the reason that we get sick in the first place is the literal degeneration of genes. They become degenerated. And that often is from the stress in the body, whether that's emotional stress, physical stress, all types of stress. And so it deregulates our genes. So when what we want to do is we want to slow down that degeneration to the point where it stops, and then we can reverse it back up, regenerate the genes into a healthy state, and then you naturally feel better in your body. And part of that is being in alignment with yourself mentally, on a consciousness state, what you do with your body. And that can be very confusing and overwhelming. And that's why that's why we're here, is to guide people along the way, so that like essentially it's like, I'm a master at some things in life, not even close to being all of them. Like there's some things that people are just really good at that I'm still trying to figure out. But when it comes to healing from disease, I'm a master at that one. Like I've been up and down that mountain so many times with hundreds of different people. So it's like essentially when people can think things are going wrong, it's actually a sign of healing.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, when I notice a lot when people are healing, whether it's leaving an abusive relationship or healing from disease, whatever it may be, there comes a time where there's a lot of shedding of emotions. They're like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel so angry. And it's like, yes. And they're like,
it's pulling stuff up.
You know? And it's like, a lot of it too is just like knowing you're not alone. You're not crazy. A lot of things too, when people go through circumstances like this, is they're made to feel like they have like psychosomatic stuff going on, and it really is a disease in their body. And so it's very it can be very isolating for them, because they don't even want to talk about it, because people don't believe them.
Yeah. So our buddy and one of the guys from the Goo Crew, K-Strap,
love it.
He's from the Goo Crew, but he's asked, do you still have rheumatoid arthritis? Is this something that so does it, you can actually fully evolve from it?
So I've been in full remission for over 4 years.
Amazing.
The only thing I deal with now is some of the past damage that the disease did. And so, and I'm even getting through that. And so that's another thing. Every step of the way, I would go along and I'd be told it was hopeless, like that I had a psychology issue, because I didn't believe that like I had a disease that I was going to have for the rest of my life. And I was like, you're right. I don't believe it. I could not believe it. I was like, there's no way. I meant for so much more than this in this world, in this life. Like I knew it in my heart, like, no, no.
Yeah.
And so, so that's the thing, is like, we sometimes just need to question things. You know, a whole society can be wrong. Like, and then all of a sudden something new comes in and it changes our perspective completely. And often it like throws our belief systems off, because it's like, but no, it's like, I've seen so many people heal from autoimmune diseases now. So many, like no one can tell me otherwise. It's like, it is possible. And then reversing damage, I've been told so many times, like, okay, now the damage is in your joints. Too bad. That's how it's going to be for life. Nope.
I wanted to touch on this. You said something really, really powerful a few minutes ago, where you said we can start to stop that and then reverse and now start regrowing the cells in these things. We have these belief systems in our society, is that, you know, like I had a friend pass through the other day and he's not even 30. He's like, you know, I'm getting old though, man. Like the things I'm like, dude, you haven't lived a quarter of your life. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like we can, if we change our belief, like our belief patterns and like what's cool, and we'll start diving into frequency stuff through meditation or running or whatever you're doing, you can get to these different which are enabling your body to heal, and like getting past this stress point where you're allowing your body to actually regenerate and feeding it nutrients that you can allow these ignite these cells to rejuvenate again. And like this, I've been diving lots into like longevity and these things lately, and it's interesting. Some of these Chinese masters, as well as people just working in the rice fields and stuff, some of them are past their 120s. They don't even know how old they are, but they've found this rhythm, this flow state, these things that we see popping up all the time now and in our everyday, but we don't quite know what it means. But really diving into what that is, and we have the power to rejuvenate and regrow, and our bodies can actually live a lot longer than we think.
Oh yeah, that's the thing, is like, and you know, on top of this consciousness of what we're coming into with, we're seeing there is no limit to our consciousness.
Yeah.
And then on top of that as well, there's no limit to our technology that in this like 3D world that is being manufactured right now. Like it is next level. There's a lot of predictions swirling around that between the year 2030 and the year 2040, they'll have essentially be able to give people eternal life.
Yeah.
And that seems mind-blowing.
Wow.
I mean, you have to die from an accident.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
You know, it's like
it's crazy. Yeah.
And so, and that might be on the far end of the spectrum, but even if it's extending life, imagine living 1,000 or 2,000 years.
Yeah.
And that's
well, I'd read. Yeah. And I'd read something even not to the thousands, but they were saying in prediction in 20 years, just even 10, 20 years from now of the average age moving up. I think it's like, it's pretty low. Well, not, yeah, low in our terms. It's like 70 or 80, but they were saying up to 100, 120. And it was like just through that, these shifts in technology, but then I think also these generational mindset and this change in structure a little bit.
Yeah, well, we're discovering, I think, as humanity, as people, we are a lot more powerful than we ever even knew.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing what we can create together. And, you know, what's really beautiful about the time we're living in now is we're coming back to a state of community. So I think what we went through as a globe over the last few years really tapped into something with people that they realized, they kind of like woke up. It's like almost like waking out of a sleep and like shaking your head and being like, what's going on? Like, it's like, what matters to me? Who am I? Like, what am I here to, like, we only have this one life. Like, even if you believe in living multiple lifetimes, you only have one life as this particular being. So it's like, and we are community, like we are community beings, you know, when we work together and build things together in collaboration and building each other up and creating together. Oh my gosh, the things that happen. And, you know, whereas we've been living in a society before this where it's very much about the individual, and not all societies are like that on our planet, but our Western culture is very much like that. And there's nothing wrong with being an individual. There's a lot of benefits and positives to that as well. Now you get that feeling of you still have your individuality and you're in all the stuff that you cultivated, all this knowledge that you've cultivated. And now you get to go and collaborate with other people and you share your knowledge that you've cultivated and they share their knowledge that they've cultivated. And now all of a sudden it's just this like huge catalyst for growth and expansion and, you know, and discovery. It's like, oh my gosh, like it's so funny because like we are kind of hitting the end of the Newtonian kind of science system paradigm. And it's like, oh, well, we learned everything we need to know about science. Guess again, now quantum science comes in and it's like a whole other adventure all over again. Like
we know nothing.
It's so amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And, you know, and when you put it like that too, it really comes to mind that Western society also has a real beautiful spot to walk from because seeing it in that individuality standpoint and then coming to a more now bringing the bell to the other side, like there's a lot to grow from and there's beauty in the dark and the light and positive and negative or whatever you want to shadow dark, however you want to word it. But and what's really beautiful is that you through, I don't know if intentionally or not, but you really almost have this great little micro experiment testing with the program you're running because you have the community element that's starting to occur. You have people coming from battling these just incredibly because that's like in its own is such a amazing feat in being able to, because there's to work through that, like it's, you know, it's hard enough for people to meditate without having aching bones and stuff like that, right? Like so they're really going above, and I commend everyone in your program who's doing it because there's so much respect, and I love that so much about what you guys do. Do you think from what you see now with that community and how it's starting to grow and evolve on itself, do you see a similar, has it changed your perspective in any ways on the future and at a larger scale?
I mean, I feel like my perspective is constantly changing because there's like so much going on and I'm always open to learn something new. But yes, I feel like we are truly stepping into a new paradigm of existence. You know, there's been measurable spontaneous evolutions that have gone on throughout history with mankind. And here we are again. We're just in the middle of it. Sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees, right? And so it's like we are in a spontaneous evolution. And it is a wild ass ride.
Yeah.
It's like just think about where we are and like the technologies that have been developed over the last 30 years, the awakening that has gone on in our consciousness, and how, like, where is it going to go from there? Because it's only becoming more exponential. And so really the big piece about it, I find, is community, is coming together, is sharing with each other. And circling back to what you were talking about too, with how we're very fortunate to come from where we've come from, because I find that myself anyway, because I really resonate with it as a someone from a Western culture. I have a kitten. Can you tell? Anyway, so from our Western culture, we evolve, most of us, the majority of us, evolve our consciousness through the intellect.
Yeah.
And so, you know, which is really interesting because I think a lot of people don't realize that they are evolving their consciousness by needing to know all the things and studying the stuff and so by going through the intellect, we brought a lot of information with us. And so now as we actually evolve and awaken and become more enlightened, we have all this information to utilize right here in like our 3D world. So it's just such a fun adventure. So like, no regrets, humanity. We're doing it. Like,
well, that's just it, right? And it's such it can be looked at as like from a negative standpoint, but it's actually quite exciting. It's like there's so much change happening, and we really don't know where it's going to go. But it's an exciting time to be alive. Yeah,
well, and it's perspective, right? It's like when we really think about it, any moment of any part of your existence is a miracle. Like it took billions of years to develop this very moment where we're somehow talking through the ether. You're in one city, I'm in another city, and people are watching it in real time. Like what? Like, and it's pretty amazing. Like every single thing that happens is a miracle. So even when we suffer, it's a miracle that we get to be alive and witness that. And so it really is perspective. What are we going to focus on? Because there'll always be things, there'll always be suffering to focus on. And that's fine to be like, hey, this exists. And I'd like to move away from that into a better feeling thought, you know, as Abraham Hicks says. But it's like, we don't need to dwell on that. It's like, okay, great. And sometimes we've learned those lessons. It's like, you know, I'm just going to grab this cat. Hold on.
It looks like the cat may have broke some glass of some kind.
Super naughty. This is the naughty. His name is Storm, named appropriately. Oh, now he's purring in my hand. You're so cute.
He is a cutie dog.
So cute. This is a little baby. And a very naughty cat. Okay. And so.
What did he break? What did he break?
Oh, nothing. Just crystal collectible.
Crystal collectible. Well, you know, we do have the technology here where we can make remake that crystal collectible as an NFT for you. So
fabulous. Oh, okay. So I'm like totally distracted now, but I need more information on NFTs and how they work. Maybe we'll talk about that at the end of this because I'm 40 and that's weird to me. So what were we talking about before Storm was being annoying?
Perspective and
perspective. Yes, it really is about altering our perspective, and it's like really learning like what can I learn from this moment now that I'm in it? You know, if you're not liking it, we don't think about what we need to learn from lovely moments because we're just like caught up in them and having a great time.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. Well, and I encourage you to bring that perspective to the cold work workshop that you're going to do that you want.
Okay, great. Yay.
Yeah, I've been going through it with Keegs asked how my cats are doing, and they're doing good. Well, I've been going through it with the one the male cat there. He's been just at my heels. I got him on this raw food diet, and I've accidentally turned him into like savages half. But like now they're which I like. That's what I want. But at the same time, they're now he just follows me, and he just will not stop squeaking and squawking at me. And I'm just like, dude, what do you want? And then he's just like, and then he'll climb up my leg, and we're just in this real back and forth right now. And we kind of made up this morning, so we'll see how long that lasts.
That's hilarious. Well, yeah, for those who wouldn't know this, Storm and then Brett's cat Carl are brothers.
Oh yeah,
and they're little brat faces.
Yeah, they are something. They are.
What were we talking about?
Perspective, and how you're going to bring this perspective into the cold water when you do your cold workshop. Yeah, and it's a miracle that you get to feel that sensation of the cold water embracing your body and your cells moving through and heating your body and charging your being.
You're right.
Yeah,
you're right. It is. It is.
Yeah. We have it recorded now too, so I can keep playing it back when you guys are going.
Oh, great.
When you go to the. Yeah, it's so funny though, right? Because I love that perspective has been so huge for me in every so many facets of my life, and that cold thing. I did the same workshop. Shout out to Jeff, who does these Wim Hof cold retreats out here in the Okanagan. I'll leave just because we're talking about it, I'll leave a link to his Breath Army he does every Sunday if you ever want to dive into breath work or anything like that. He's amazing. But since doing that, I had a total perspective shift on cold, and it's been like such a powerful part of my practice. And that was just that's that. But letting those immediate 5% of the brain that's just like, I can't do this. And then getting rid of that. And then with that perspective, I'm actually so grateful for this. And this is allowing me to tune into my individual cells and feel and charge my body. It's like totally shifted to this miserable experience, to this experience I look forward to every morning, you know?
Yeah.
So it's interesting how it can be. And like the colds, I think why we're seeing. So when I went down for the community cold dip there last Sunday in Kelowna, there was like 10 different groups of people all jumping in the water at 10 a.m. on Sunday. Like it's like a thing now, you know?
I'm like the opposite. I'm like, I've moved in part-time into my infrared sauna. I would like, it even considered getting my video equipment set up in there. I'm like, hey, Brett.
well, that's one we should explore. Is I'd like to dive deeper in. I've gone down rabbit holes of the research on infrared stuff, but it'd be cool to actually I do it once in a while, but I've never actually like intentionally done like a month and gauged where I'm at or anything like that. But I've always really liked the effects. But it'd be curious to see, especially with like your shoulder and these things, like these last how it helps that. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Sweet. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us this afternoon.
Oh yeah, no worries.
It was fun. I'm glad we got to do this.
Always fun.
Yeah, and I will leave the link to your site. So if you have any family, friends, anyone listening with autoimmune issues or anything like that, please reach out to Kristen. They're doing amazing work over there. And then anything else that you're up to in the year here where you want to check out, I guess, our podcast. We got the pod coming.
So much. So looks like we're going to be expanding the company. So right now I only work with women with autoimmune with the team, but we are expanding that out. So we're starting with live events, actually. We're going to be doing live events. Yeah. So this year's theme will be mental health. So we're really going to dive in. So we'll be live streaming some of the events. for people that aren't from our area. And then we'll also have like tickets. It's like old school. We're like back in the world. And and so lots of great speakers will be coming on, but we're going to be looking into things like adult ADHD and really doing like these deep dive one day, like get as much information as possible, because there's so much information on so many different things out there right now. So it's like, let's get a group of experts together, people that have experienced it firsthand and who are navigating it well to help other people. So we'll be doing an adult ADHD one. We'll be doing a day on anxiety. We'll be doing a day on depression. We'll be doing a day on grief, etc. And so it's pretty exciting. Yeah, I'm pretty pumped about it. But I haven't spoken in public for, 7 years. So I'm just like, okay. I guess we're doing
time to hop back in.
It'll be great.
It'll be so good.
Yeah. So
I love that. And then it's really just that model, so people don't even have to worry about they want to dive into the ADHD for adults, for example, and it dives into everything you need to know. Almost gives you like the script, the blueprint for tackling
and where to find like good resources and stuff, because like that's the thing is like especially like as that is a topic at adult ADHD is very hard to get diagnosed, people find, and to get the proper help that they need. There's doctors that still believe that it's not even a thing. And like, I know I will speak for myself. I definitely have ADHD. I've seen 3 different doctors and not been able to get a diagnosis, which is fun because I actually microdose psilocybin and it works really well for me. And so that's where you came in. So very glad for your beautiful blends. They're amazing.
Thank you.
And, and so that has really helped me with that. And I super appreciate it. And I'm kind of grateful that I was turned away from the diagnostic side, and because then it kind of pushed me in that direction, and I'm really grateful for it because I manage it quite well now. But there was a point where like I was not thriving. I was not doing well. I was like operating like 10%.
Well, that's the one I did get diagnosed for first year or coming out of high school, going into university. I got diagnosed, but at that time I was just starting to dive into natural health stuff, and I didn't want to take I didn't take any pills. So I wouldn't take the pills. I think I actually ended up selling them to a friend.
I don't think you should say that on the internet.
That never happened.
Just kidding.
I never went back. But they made me feel really weird, like I felt like I tried them once and then the doctor's like, how are you doing? And it just made me feel, and I was like, this isn't right. And it really pushed me off. So I feel very fortunate for that, because it pushed me off, and then I never went back.
Yeah. And not like there's anything wrong with it either. I know of people that really thrive on it.
Yeah.
Like I do. Yeah. And so that's the thing. That's like every human being is so different in what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And I do know of people that are on medications and they just are so grateful for them. So everyone has their own different experience. But again, so that's why we are going to be putting on these like one day deep dive events, because then it's like you can just get to the guts and really get an understanding, and then you feel more empowered to like do something and have some ideas of what exactly that is that you can do. And so it's so helpful to have like I think you sent me that one with the ADHD book there. I'm forgetting what it's called. Something Your Life in the Faster Than Normal. Great book. Really good one though. Yeah. That's how I found out. But even ADHD. I read that. But having specialists point to like these books, so you really don't have to like go read through all these ones and try these. You get this like almost this model. I really love that a lot. Before we let you go here, what is your favorite mindful blend? Happy Days.
Happy Days. Nice. Yeah. I love that. That's one of my favorites too. Happy Days with the mica is a jam. So I'm 1 modern and 2 happy days. Oh, beautiful. Every unique day. Yeah. That's a song. I love it. Yeah. I'm just like, as you can tell. I'm just like, I love it. Because there doesn't have any like psychoactive effects at all. Yeah. Like I don't like feel the effects. Just like amped up lines, right? Yeah. What's that? Just like amped up linesman.
Yeah, it just like I just have
Somehow,
energy. Like I just have energy, and as you know, I have a really full schedule, and I love my work and I love what I do, but it is like or not time consuming. It's very mind consuming. And so keeping, like, I just find that those blends really help keep my mind strong.
Amazing. Well, thank you. We appreciate you.
I love it. Well, great chat.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next week. All right. Thanks, Kristen. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.